A young Syrian, who we'll call Mahmoud, fled his country's civil war and now lives anonymously in Istanbul. His flight was a nightmare. He says that when he reached the Syrian border, Turkish soldiers abducted and threatened him and other refugees.
So he was pointing at me the gun. He said he sent to the other one, say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So he started to do that to 4 of us. And we were just crying. One of us, he had a panic attack. He just started to cry and yell and all this stuff. So after 10 minutes of just terrifying, he just looked at us yeah, I'm kidding.
Mistreatment of refugees at the Turkish-Syrian border is being reported more and more frequently. This recently filmed cell phone video shows Turkish soldiers beating and kicking Syrian youths who have crossed the border. Human rights organisations are alarmed. Racist attacks against refugees are on the rise in Turkey's big cities. The refugees' precarious situation makes it easy to encourage hostility.
But if you have a situation where it's difficult for people to register in some circumstances, for them to get a solid legal status, and where you have, unfortunately, some political parties, making very negative and inaccurate statements against Syrian refugees within the country, it's an environment where, unfortunately, attacks like this could increase.
The city of Mersin on Turkey's southern coast is just a 2-hour drive from the Syrian border. The fishermen say that not so long ago, boats smuggling refugees left here regularly at night. Now the Turkish Coast Guard patrols the coast more closely. Many Turks have come to resent the foreign refugees.
2 years ago, they were still unemployed. But now many of them have opened shops. They're doing better than we are.
In the quarter of Mersin where the refugees live, opinion is divided. Should they stay in Turkey or move on to Europe? This married couple from northern Syria wants to leave Turkey as soon as possible.
We live from hand to mouth. Sometimes we work in the fields, but we don't speak the language. We're outsiders here.
I sold everything I had in Syria. I want to use the money to get my family and myself out of here.
Other Syrians want to wait and see. It's been a long time since anyone considered Turkey tolerant and welcoming.
Turkey uses refugees as a threat against Europe. It's not good. So I'd rather return to my own country as soon as that's possible.
This Syrian people smuggler says only about 20 people a month are still willing to pay up to $600 to be brought illegally to Europe. But when the political conflict between Europe and Turkey flares up, like now, his business picks up too.
Then the police and Coast Guard controls are less stringent. And more refugees approach us. We've certainly noticed that.
Mahmoud would like to move on to Europe. He fears Turkey's hostile attitude towards refugees could reach a tipping point. But he knows that for the time being at least, the furthest he'd get is Greece.